Hello, welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbau, and tonight we have a special report on the youth and resource centers which have been abandoned because in 2018 the government commenced the construction of 10 multi-purpose youth resource centers that were to be completed in 9 months. 5 years on, the projects have been abandoned and left to rot. My colleague Fentio Tahiru has this special report focusing on the Azumah Nelson Youth Resource Center.
This is the Azumah Nelson Sports Youth Resource Center, named after legendary Ghanaian boxer Azumah Nelson. The facility was supposed to serve as a multi-purpose sports center fit enough to accommodate more than 40 different sporting disciplines when completed. Also known as the Kaneshi Sports Complex, the facility was built during the era of the Supreme Military Council and the General Achampong in the 1970s. It served as a training base for teams during AFCON 1978, which Ghana hosted and won. Since then, however, years of neglect had placed on the back burner the plans of the people running sports in the country. Various governments had made promises to upgrade the facility to its stature as a functioning multi-purpose sports center, but none had made good on their promises. But in March 2018, then Sports Minister Isaac Azumah finally commissioned renovation works to start on the facility.
We are securing the future of Ghana sports through this investment. And I can tell you, in the next 20 years, Ghanaians will remember one person called President Akufo-Addo for the huge investment he made in sports. This huge one. Across the country, we are going to do all these things. By November, you will see 10 multi-purpose youth centers. That can take off about 5,000 people. Sitting capacity 5,000. So we can even play some of the national matches. Understand? Yes, big matches. Black Queens can come and play maybe in Wa, because we're going to do one in Wa. They can go to Navrongo, going to do one in Navrongo. They can go to Nyahini, going to do one in Nyahini. So it's going to be across the country, spread across the country, so that everywhere you go, you have quality, modern sporting facility.
That was former Sports Minister Isaac Azumah in March 2018. It was supposed to be the dawn of a new era for sports infrastructure in the country. When completed, it was supposed to seat up to 5,000 people with a swimming pool and all kinds of adjoining facilities, including a running track to go with. And it was supposed to cost some $4 million and just 9 months to complete.
Each contractor has 9 months to complete the project. If we factor in the rainy season, it depends on the intensity of rain. It could go up to 11 or 12 months, not more.
But nearly 5 years later, this is the state of the project. In December of 2021, the new Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf stated that the project was 90% complete.
If we are going to be able to identify talent in the various regions or our various communities, we can't do that without these facilities being completed. So government is committed, especially when we have already invested so much in these facilities. We can't abandon. And it's the same government. Government is continuous. And so the assurance can be getting from me. What I've realized that it was in phases. So we have phase 1, phase 2. So currently, I've engaged the consultant working on it and also the National Youth Authority, which is the agency that supervises those projects. So I can give you assurance that yes, those facilities will be completed on time, so that the identification of talent in the various regions where we have this facility, we can use those as a center. Even Azumah Nelson Sports Complex, Kaneshi Sports Complex, can also even be used during the games.
Of course.
People can go there and compete, especially on football. It's media standard. So it's something that we are working on, and to ensure that we get it done. Some of them were 90%, 70%, and 80%. There are various stages of completion.
And he wasn't wrong, because at the time, the stunts were done. The pitch was done. It was looking green and lush. But barely a year later, this is the state of it. Abandoned and left to become a breeding ground for all kinds of reptiles. The Azumah Nelson Sports Complex is not befitting of the legend it's named after. In its current state, only animals can play sport here. At the time of abandonment, the project was indeed close to completion. with the VIP stand constructed and roofed, the 4 stands constructed and the seats fixed. The drainage system had also been done, and the groundwork had been prepared for the Titan tracks to be laid. All of that, however, has now been left to rot. The compound is bordered by walls of weeds, and the facility, in totality, has now become a breeding ground for reptiles, which have made here a happy home. Dammers and moles have eaten the white paint-coated goalposts, giving them an unpleasant look of distress. The football pitch is strangled by weeds, with the VIP stand divided by a risky pit. The renovation of the Azumah Nelson Sports Complex, also known as the Kanechi Sports Complex, was part of government's aggressive sports infrastructural drive and is the first of 10 being constructed across the country. Government said it formed part of efforts to address the sports infrastructure deficit in Ghana. The facilities, when completed, would each house an 8-lane athletic track, a FIFA standard pitch, career counseling center, basketball and handball courts, as well as a multi-purpose sports hall, a restaurant, and an ICT center. The mini stadiums would also have a seating capacity of 5,000. The most disappointing thing about this place is that it looks like it was actually this close to completion. A majority of the money had already been spent, and what was left to finish the project was only a fraction. But that fraction hasn't come. And of course the contractors departed, and the place has now degenerated into this eyesore.
Tahiru Fentio there, and he joins me in studio for more on this one. Well, the Minister of Youth and Sports has been responding to questions in Parliament relative to this very project, and he indicated in Parliament that the project is expected to be completed before end of year. Fentio is in the studio with me, and of course in Zoom also is Nathan Alato, who will be exploring, because the facility is named after one of Ghana's legend, real legend as far as boxing is concerned, Azumah Nelson. And we'll be getting his thoughts on why this is such a disappointment, such an embarrassing scene, and even to some extent disrespect to the legend himself over there. So, Fent, great report, but how do you feel? How did you feel? Going through the bushes? I'm sure you were even scared for your life. You must admit.
Yeah, to be fair, it was quite risky because. There are all kinds of reptiles there. I spotted a snake at some point in one of the gutters because it's full of dammers and what have you. And it's basically inaccessible. And the saddest part is that all of that is directly behind the offices of the National Youth Authority CEO, whose office is funding these projects. And I think for many people, what they find disappointing is the fact that the project was actually close to completion.
Yeah, and that's my point, because you made it quite profound that it was left with a fraction to completion.
Exactly.
90% completion.
Exactly. And the minister has said that himself, including the contractor. And so the amount of money that was required to finish the project was actually less than 1 million Ghana cedis, around 650,000 Ghana cedis. The contractor did raise that certificate, and in October 2020, it wasn't paid. And from then on, obviously, the contractor abandoned the site, and now everything, all the progress, all the work they had also made there is degenerated into becoming what you see now. And, it's very disappointing mostly because this was supposed to be, like I said in the report, the dawn of a new era for infrastructure. And there's no reason, really, no justifiable reason why those projects have not progressed since then. Because unlike many other projects that have suffered financial constraints, this particular project doesn't suffer same, because the project is being funded from the Common Fund, 5% allocation to the NYA. And that Common Fund goes to the NYA unfailingly every single year. That money goes to the NYA. So there's no reason work should not be progressing on those facilities. And for the Azumah Nelson Sports Complex, its current status means that it is denying more than 50 schools with close to almost 500,000 school children that use that ground for both educational and, more importantly, sporting purposes. And we emphasize the importance of exercise among school children.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that it was supposed to be the only public facility in the whole of Greater Accra to have a running track. We keep talking about trying to produce the next Azamatis, the next athletes.
Yeah.
There is no single public running track in the whole of the Greater Accra region.
Wow.
So that facility was supposed to provide that. Accra Sports Stadium had it, but when it was renovated for AFCON 2008, the running track was removed.
Yeah.
So there's no single running track in the whole of Greater Accra, except Legon, which is also under construction now. So the Azumah Nelson Sports Complex was supposed to solve that problem. It was supposed to also provide an avenue for basketball players to train, for football matches to be played there, for boxing bouts to be played, to be hosted there. It's amazing what that project has done in the past, even without all of these works. 1978, you saw the visuals. It was a camping base for most national teams. In 2005, Ikote hosted an international boxing bout there. Back in the 1970s, hockey teams were camping, the national hockey teams were camping there. So the Azumah Nelson Sports Complex has always been originally, Zach, the proper youth resource center. Even
It's like
middle class.
the model
Exactly.
resource center.
Even middle class people used it back in the day. And even as late as 2007, 2008, House of Folk and Great Olympics used it for league games when the Accra Sports Stadium was under reconstruction. So you look at the grand plan that they had for the facility and where the work had gotten to, this abandonment is unpardonable. And really, anybody that made that decision to not continue and finish the project has caused financial loss to the state, because what it would require now to redo the whole project to completion would be at least twice as much as what they would have needed to complete it when they got to 90%, maybe even 3 times more. Where's that money going to come from? That is excess pressure on the taxpayer, on limited resources that we do not have. The question is, who is facing the consequences?
Who is facing the consequences? Well,
Because ultimately, that's why these things keep happening.
Yeah.
Because nobody takes responsibility and no one faces consequences.
Yes.
Because you cannot allow a project like this to get to the point where it's gotten to without anybody taking full responsibility. Because like I explained, Zach, this has nothing to do with money.
yeah.
Because the money is there.
It doesn't look like there's guaranteed funding for it. So even the reason why it was not completed in 9 months is problematic. Of course, joined on Zoom by Nathan Arato, who obviously, for a boxing lover as he is, will be disappointed, with the fact that Azumah Nelson is the one whose name is on this. And of course, all the way in 2014, because of the state of that very facility, Azumah Nelson had indicated that his name should be taken off the facility. Okay. That's why in 2018, when the news broke out that, look, this facility was going to be renovated and a certain $4 million was going to be invested in it, he was glad that finally something has been done about it. And in 2018, just listen to Isaac Esiama, the former sports minister, when he was cutting the sword for this project, how he was, if you should call it, flattering Azumah Nelson, that this indeed is befitting for the legend Azumah Nelson. But I don't know how he's going to be feeling knowing that the facility has not been completed up to now.
Unfortunately, all the facilities here have been poorly maintained and neglected, abandoned over the years, to the extent that it doesn't befit the stature and pedigree of Professor Azumah Nelson. It doesn't at all somebody who, over the years, has lifted high the image of Ghana. Those years, you could wake everybody up from 1 to 5 a.m. to watch Professor on display. So I'm happy, proud that the president has seen the need to put this place in such a shape that befits the pedigree of Professor Azumah Nelson. And all of us are proud of this gentleman because of what he has done for Ghana. So, Professor, I can assure you that this place is going to be transformed. You're going to be proud of this place. That in the next few months, you can say, wow, is that my facility? You'll be proud of this facility. Ghana is grateful for your experts. I'm happy to announce that to perform this function, we brought the man himself, Professor, to be here so that he himself would appreciate what government wants to do, at least for his contribution, so that kids, young people would also know that when you do well for Mother Ghana, this country will appreciate your contribution and be rewarded accordingly. But naming such a facility after him for some of us is good, and it will also obviously promote the interests of young people, and also young people will know that let me do and kill myself for Mother Ghana.
The former Minister for Youth and Sports, Azumah there. And of course, Fent, you heard him. The reason why, for instance, government even founded the need to invest the amount of money, this amount of money into the project is also to honor the legend.
Absolutely.
And 5 years on, I'm not sure the legend is going to be happy.
And then the renaming was done under Kufuor, I believe, before 2008. So it was a long time ago. And the idea behind the renaming was simply everything that everyone has indicated before, to try and honor him. Azumah Nelson has said in the past, and you mentioned it, that the project isn't befitting of his name, and he would be glad if they took his name off. And you saw in that video, Azumah Nelson looking at Isaac Asiama while he spoke. You could tell that there was a bit of skepticism in him, because he's heard it before, many, many times in the past, about how that project would become a facility that would be befitting of all the hard work, his hard-earned reputation. So far, it's all been lip service. And right now, that project is worse than it probably was a few years ago. And, it's one of those things that certainly saddens most people, because Azumah Nelson, of all the sporting facilities in this country, that's the only thing named after him. Ghana's greatest boxer of all time is named after a facility that is not even fit enough to host a wrestling match between two bulls.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Well, Nathaniel Atos joined us on the phone, and of course, he follows Azumah Nelson very closely. Nat, good to have you on the line. A facility that is intended to honor Azumah Nelson has been left to rot. The question on the minds of everybody is, are we doing well in honoring this man? Because it does appear we're just waiting for the law to call him and, state funeral, etc., trying to honor him when he's gone.
It is very clear that something is wrong, and something is very, very wrong in the way we have approached everything. I've listened to the submissions made by Fentu Tahiru, and I couldn't agree more. Now, there are certain fundamental principles when you are developing your sport. The fundamental principles are that you have to lay foundations, and these foundations are on the levels of infrastructure, of talent, of trainers, and of the general structure that will make competitive platforms run so that you can develop these talents and have them win laurels for you. Azumah Nelson is in a class of his own. He is of different skin. He gave this nation hope that we needed at a certain time in our political history, and he represented what every single young person wanted to aspire to as an African. Remember that during the period when Azumah Nelson became a world champion, we were emerging from moments of political instability. We were emerging from moments of harsh, economic problems. And so if we're in the year 2003 or in the 21st century trying to honor him, then this kind of edifice definitely will befit his status. But then if we're putting it up or we're constructing it, there has to be that level of urgency in putting it up or constructing it. And there has to be that, that level of appreciation shown in the way we go about putting up that structure to honor the legend. In other parts of the world, things like these are not joked with at all. We all do recall that in French football recently, one person, lost his job because he spoke ill of a legend of the game. That is how serious some have decided to take it, and that is how far some take it when you do anything to desecrate the legacies that have been left by these people. Because you see, boxing is a one-man sport or a one-woman sport. When you're in there in the ring, it is you carrying the aspirations and hopes of millions of people depending on which part of the globe you come from. And Azumah Nelson did it to a fault. He did it to an admirable fault. In this century or in this generation, what we have to do is to roll back the years through books and through audiovisual images, appreciate what he has done, and also advocate for platforms such as these, or advocate for measures such as these to continue to celebrate his memory. I mean, you can imagine that Ghana boxing or Ghana sport had 10 or 15 or 20 more of Azumah's kind. You can imagine what it could have done for us as a nation and the kind of ripple effect it would have had in all other aspects of our development. So for me, it is very, very simple. One person has led this charge, and it's Central who's sitting there in the studio. We're all supporting it. And we all just want to see this happen. And I think this is a good time to also issue a disclaimer. Nobody at Joy Sports ever pursues any agenda. Nobody ever pursues any campaign to bring down anyone. It is never ever intended to do so. In fact, I would like to recall a couple of years ago when I went to visit my good friend Iola Ayuade, who is the CEO of Charter House. His office has a big window that has a view of the Azumah Nelson complex. And boy, oh boy, I'm sure that every day when he gets into his office and he's trying to, get a bit of a breather or get some inspiration to do something, he has that view to deal with on a daily basis. What crime did he and others in that vicinity commit? And another final thing, before we wrap up this conversation, is that you see, the way we have approached this goes to tell us that we do not even understand what putting up a structure like that in that part of the capital Accra can do to talent discovery and talent development. Guess what? One of our highest rated tennis players in our history, in Franco Fori, whose name has been placed on the center court of the Accra Stadium, was discovered there, and he honed his talent there on the tennis court of the then Kanishi complex, which is now the Azumah Nelson complex. And so, if we want to put a structure like that up, or we want to put up infrastructure like that, we should understand that it is situated in a certain part of the capital that is accessible to many youth. I mean, the complex is central to places like Adabraka, North Kanishi, Bubuashi, Fadama, and all of those places. Kids who are talented can come to that place, get trained, compete, and push their talent to a certain level that can get them to compete at the international level. And I've just given you one example. And so we just need to get our acts together and make sure that we complete this so that we can at least say a proper thank you to a man who, at a certain point in his life, put everything up for the Ghana flag, so the Ghana flag can stand tall amongst all others.
Well, Nathaniel, thank you very much. We appreciate your time there. That's Nathaniel Ato with Joy Sports, and also one man who follows Azumah Nelson very closely. And Nathaniel made a very important point there, where some have received this, report as an agenda against the leader, the sports minister, etc. I mean, how do you respond to that? Because clearly, this is the development of Ghana football.
I mean, to be honest with you, that is quite petty. Anybody who thinks that this is an agenda against a sports minister. In fact, in the whole report, the current sports minister wasn't even mentioned in the report. In fact, when he was mentioned, he was speaking about the project being at 90% completing. As a fact, he stated. We didn't force him to say that. And it's true. In fact, we believed him when he said it was 90% completed. And we reported that it was 90% completed, according to the minister. Now it's degenerated. We reported the same thing. Yeah. So facts are sacred. Nobody has any agenda. If that project was completed, Joy Sports would report it. Yeah. And that is why, and that's what we want. But if you leave it to rot, Joy Sports will report it. The most important thing is that the facility is being funded by the taxpayer. You and I pay taxes, so they can put that good money into use. They started a project, paid a contractor to work on the project with our money. The project has gotten to a certain level. There is enough money to complete it. There is no reason they're not finishing the project. Finish the project It's the most important, and Nat couldn't have put it any better. Finish the project, because lots of people are suffering
and dependent on it
as a result of the non-completion of this project. I mean, students are being denied vital exercises.
We need to go, but on Wednesday, we know another one is going to come up. Which one are we looking at?
Yes, so we're running a series, obviously. So we started in Accra here, only befitting that we start here. Next week, we will show viewers what the Koforidua Youth Resource Center looks like. And next Wednesday, we'll take on from there. And if you think that this is an agenda, then you better be ready, because it is not possible that all 10 look abandoned. That's not Joy Sports is doing. It is just what it is. We're just reporting. So if you don't want us to show you what it looks like right now, fix it, and let's show you what it looks like after you fix it. It's really that simple, because I can guarantee you, Musbau, if these youth resource centers are finished, Joy Sports will be back at every single one of those facilities to bring viewers up to speed with the work that the government has done. Because if you do well, we will show the good works. If you don't, we will show what it is. It's our job. Our job is to expose the ills of society. Our job is to put spotlight on developmental issues. And this is a crucial development issue. It's a crucial matter.
Big issue there. Fentio, Tahiru Fentio, with the Joy Sports Desk. And what we understand is that Barbara Sports Stadium, the pitch will not be available for domestic competition until after Ghana's Africa Cup of Nations qualify against Angola. The Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Ghana Football Association, and the National Sports Authority reached the decision during a meeting on Wednesday. And the decision is to give managers of the pitch ample time to further improve the quality of pitch for Ghana's African Cup of Nations qualifier against Angola. So whereas, of course, Kumasi Asante Kotoko and the other clubs who use it will obviously look elsewhere to play their league matches. That's where we draw the curtains on tonight's edition of Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbau. Friend, thanks for coming to the studio, and we look forward to next week's episode. Do have a lovely evening.